Problem 914, this is going to be a great problem to pay close attention to because this is also the topic of our study island this week. So let's take a look at part A first. So for A, I have 4x to the third y times 3x y to the third. So you want to keep in mind, if it helps you, imagine that in between each of these terms is multiplication. I think that's going to help you a lot. And then we have just this y here, this lone y. It doesn't have an exponent. So when there's no exponent, it is inferred that it is going to be raised to the first. Same over here with my x. Now we can work on combining these. So I have a 4 and a 3 as my bases. Those I can multiply together to get a 12. And then I know I have an x. Since we're multiplying, we want to add those exponents. So it's going to be x to the 3 plus 1, which gives me 4. And then y. And we also need to add those exponents. Base stays the same, which is my y. And we add the exponents. So 1 plus 3 gives me 4. So we've got our answer. We have 12x to the fourth, y to the fourth. Okay, that's for part A. So make sure you have all of this written down. And we'll go ahead and take a look at part B now. So part B, we have 6a to the fifth, b to the second, times 3a, b to the second. Now remember, if you want to draw in little multiplication symbols between each of these terms to help, you can absolutely do that. That's totally fine. You don't have to though. Alright, now I see over here I have an a lone a by itself with no exponent. So remember, like we said in part A, if that's the case, then it can be inferred that there's an exponent of 1. Alright, let's take a look at my constants now. I have a 6 and a 3, and we are multiplying. So I'm going to do 6 times 3, which gives me 18. Now we have same bases here, a and a. Since we're multiplying, those stay the same. And we add the exponents. So a to the 5 plus 1 is going to be a to the 6th. And then b, because my base stays the same, and I'm going to add those exponents. So b to the 2 plus 2 gives me b to the 4th. So this is our simplified expression for part B. Now let's go ahead and move on to C once you make sure you have all of that written down. And part C, it looks like we have m to the second n times 9mn. All right, so just keep in mind we're multiplying straight through on this one. And I do have quite a few variables that don't have an exponent. So don't panic, just put in ones. Now it's important to remember that it is n to the first, m to the first, n to the first, and not 0, because it's 1. So in this case, I have just one constant, and I don't have anything to multiply it by, so it's going to be a 9. And then we have m to the 2 plus 1, so that's going to give me m to the third, and then n to the 1 plus 1, which is going to give me n to the second. So again, here is our simplified expression for part C. You want to make sure that you have all parts of that written down. And we'll go ahead and take a look at D. So it looks like here we have for part D, 3 to the 5th times 8 times 5 to the 3rd over 3 to the 2nd times 2 to the 3rd times 5 to the 3rd times 3 to the 3rd. All right, in this case, what I would do is I would try to simplify the bottom. So the top, because it has different bases, is pretty much already simplified. So let's work on simplifying the bottom. All right, so we have, it looks like I have a 3 to the 3rd and a 3 to the 2nd that I can combine. Now remember, I'm going to keep my top the same, so that 3 to the 5 times 8 times 5 to the 3rd. And then on the bottom, if I am, see, we're multiplying straight across on the bottom, which means we're going to have keep bases the same. So my base of 3 here stays the same, and then I add the exponents 2 and 3. So I have 3 to the 5th times, all right, 2 to the 3rd, another way of writing that would be 8. And then I have finally just a 5 to the 3rd. So now I'm given this expression of 3 to the 5th times 8 times 5 to the 3rd over 3 to the 5th times 8 times 5 to the 3rd. So you've probably noticed that it's the same on the top and bottom. Now, when we are dividing, you know that we subtract exponents, and we're going to divide the bases as well. So this is just going to give me a giant 1, because anything divided by itself gives us 1. So I'm going to draw in 3 giant 1s. So I have 1 times 1 times 1. Well, 1 times 1 is 1 times 1 is 1. So this whole thing simplifies down to just 1 for part D. Okay, once you have that copied down, we'll go ahead and move on to part E. And part E, I'm going to rewrite so I have some room to do work. M to the 4th times n over n to the 3rd. So for this one, I have m to the 4th times n. My n doesn't have an exponent, which means it would be 1. So then I'm going to have, you'll notice that I am dividing, and when I divide, I want to subtract exponents. M to the 4th, I don't have anything to subtract from, so that's going to stay m to the 4th. Now my n's, I'm doing 1 minus 3, and 1 minus 3 is going to give me an n to the negative 2nd, but we can't have a negative exponent, so what we're going to do is we can take the reciprocal, which is n to the 2nd, and we're just going to put that under my m to the 4th. So we should have m to the 4th over n to the 2nd. And we are finished with part E now. So once you have part E copied down, we'll go ahead and move to part F. And part F gives me 9a to the 4th, b to the 2nd, over 15b. Now remember that b doesn't have an exponent, so I'm going to write a 1 in. So where we could start for this is, let's see, we can do b to our second and b to our first. We can go ahead and subtract those. So it's going to be just b to the first, right? Because we subtract 1 from 2, we get b to the first. So we're going to have 9a to the fourth, b to the first, over 15, right? Because we subtracted that b to the first away, so we're just left with 15 on the bottom. And now what we can do is we can just simplify. Let's pretend like we're just looking at this 9/15. We can go ahead and simplify that, and we can simplify that down to 3/5, right? Because if we divide 9 by 3, we get 3. If we divide 15 by 3, we get 5. So we will go ahead and simplify that down to 3. My 9 simplifies to 3. Now don't forget to include the rest that was on top, so a to the fourth, b to the first. And then 15 is going to be, remember, it becomes 5 on the bottom. Okay, and that is all we have then for part F, which means we are finished with this problem.